All right, welcome to the shop today. This is Adam Lane Olson at Peter Limmer and Sons in Intervale, New Hampshire. And today we want to cover a few things about boot maintenance and boot care. So we've got a pair of boots that are in reasonable shape. They've got a sole on them fairly recently, but they are definitely in need of a little bit of TLC. So today we're going to go over some of those things. So primarily we look at these and the boots look pretty dried out, so we know that they need some boot grease. However, before we start that, we're going to go over and clean them up a little bit and fix a few things. So the first thing I like to do is take a pair of side cutters. You could use a pair of pliers or even a screwdriver and pry these up if they get smashed down. But I like those because it brings them up to a nice consistent height so your laces don't get hooked on them. So I'll go over all those, make sure that those are all opened up. And then, if there's any that are bent up in the wrong direction, now we have some different ways to do that here in the shop, but at home you could take a block of wood and a hammer and just gently get those evened out. And if they go a little bit too far, right back up. Then I'll take a lighter and just clean up any flyaway threads that we have around on the boot. It's all going to be a nylon thread or polyester, and it will melt and be good to go. So then we'll take our soft brass brush. You can use a stiff nylon brush, and we're going to start to clean the boot. I like to start in the welt to get all the sand, grit, grime off of the stitching all the way around. And then I'll go up on the rest of the boot and clean that off. You can see there's a fair amount on here that's going to come off with a little bit of scrubbing. Sometimes a little fingernail will get those stubborn spots off. Once we get the dirt and dust off, we're going to scoop a little bit of grease onto our brush. It doesn't have to be an excessive amount. And we're going to start to work that into the boot. Now a lot of the time you will see that the toe area of the boot is the driest. Whether you're wearing gaiters or long pants, this is the spot that gets the most damage or the most wear, whereas the back half of the boot tends to be protected more. So that toe area will typically take in more boot grease. So we use a soft horsehair brush to work the grease into it. You can use your fingers, you could use a cloth, but the brush does a nice job to work into the welt area and into the leather fibers. Make sure you get the tongue. You don't need to go inside the boot with the boot grease, but I do like to get just right, make sure I get around that collar. And then when I'm doing so, if you have leather laces, I like to thread those back into the bottom two D-rings, even them up again, put a little grease on the brush, and just lightly grease those laces up. And just lightly grease those laces up. And that is the difference. Thanks for joining us today. Happy hiking.